Okay, guys, here is our 9.1, starting off with the leaders during World War II. During this era, we have a lot of dictators rising up. There is a rise in fascism, Nazism, communism, totalitarianism, and we're going to talk about what these are. So totalitarianism is when the government controls all aspects of life, mostly economy based. They are usually led by a strong, charismatic leader that got the backing of the people. They use terror to suppress individual rights and silence all forms of opposition. So there's a strong military presence as well. They use censorship. This is when government controls what is put out into media. They can dictate what can or can't be said or shown to the people. And there's also a heavy use of propaganda. When we get into World War II, Nazis used a lot of anti-Semitic propaganda to, I guess, instill the idea that they were an inferior race, according to Hitler. All right, we also get the Soviet Union, what rose to power after the Bolshevik Revolution in the early 1900s. So the leader of the Soviet Union is a man by the name of Joseph Stalin. He is called the Man of Steel. The Soviet Union had a totalitarian government that was headed by Vladimir Lenin after the massacre of the imperial family. In 1924, Lenin dies. And in the 1930s, we get what is called the Great Terror. 10 million people died in Russia, and there was a lot of fear circulating and a lot of propaganda being put out into the public. Then we jump to Italy. Italy is run by a man by the name of Benito Mussolini. He heads up the fascist party. They're called the Black Shirts. Believe that Italy was shortchanged after World War I, and there was a lot of thought going on in Italy that they were going to rise again like the Roman Empire and become this big world power. They wanted territory along the Adriatic Sea, which is the sea that runs alongside Italy. And they were also in an economic depression as well because of the aftermath of the war. Then we jump to Germany. Germany is led by Adolf Hitler, who was actually voted into power. He was a World War I veteran, a failed artist. He had applied to art school many times and was never accepted. And he was very unhappy with the outcome of the Treaty of Versailles after World War I. Germany, remember, had to pay back billions of dollars in war reparations. And because of this, and they tried to print more money to compensate for how much they were having to pay, there was a lot of inflation in Germany to the point where people would just be carrying wheelbarrows of money to the market, or their children would be playing with them like building blocks. So Germany was in a serious depression financially, and Adolf joined the Nazi Party and headed it up. And this is the party that really came to power in Germany during this time period. And before they really had success in it, there was a lot of turmoil, and they had tried to overthrow the already installed government, but it did not work out to their benefit initially, and he was imprisoned. While in prison, he wrote a book called Mein Kampf, which is also called My Struggle in English. In Mein Kampf, he outlined his plan for the nation and anti-Semitism and how he would restore Germany to power. In 1933, Hitler gained control of the Nazi Party and of Germany, being voted into power, like we said. and he was called Der Führer. All right, so what is anti-Semitism? Anti-Semitism is the hatred toward Jewish people. Whenever you hear something called anti-Semitic, Semitic is a word that refers to Jewish culture and people. Expansion was the key to building a strong nation, and so they thought that they needed to move their boundaries outward and expand their territory in order to build up the power that they had before World War I. They started building up arms again and starting massive public works projects in order to prepare for this movement and this militarism. In 1936, Hitler and Mussolini signed an alliance, creating what is known as the Axis powers. Remember, alliances are what was one of the key causes of World War I, and we are already starting to dive back into them.